Amalach, he would say, mide de orche, mide de orche. He's going to argue, you take something from that's normal, where there's a normal designation, like a glarufa, okay, and you use that as your basis to making the parallel. That's his point, okay? Gamrin, and that's what we learned. La'afuke avodat kochavim delav orcha, to exclude the example of avodat kochavim, of worshiping these other objects. Okay, that is not a normal situation. Okay, well, particularly. Okay, we now have an example here, okay, of this continuation of the discussion on the same topic with a number of citations. Metive. Let's take an example. Says the Gemara as we challenge with a braita. Okay, kippah shehu tamei midras. Let's assume for the moment that a woman's kerchief or head covering, okay, has been stepped on by a zav. Okay, that is the static. Now that item, okay, it could be sat, could be stepped, either way. Okay, the point is the zav has conveyed tuma to that object. Okay, sitting, stepping, whatever. Okay, but not new l'sefer. But what she does is she now takes that kerchief, okay, and he wants to use it almost like a mantle for a sefer Torah. Okay, what happens? Tahor min hamilas. We say under that circumstances, it now becomes no longer tameh, okay, from the status of being sat or stepped on from the zav. Aval tameh magam midras. Okay, but it still, however, can be considered tameh. Right, ema, I might say, what happens? Not new uvekarachto. Okay, maybe I'm going to say there, she gave it and she already wrapped it. In other words, she did two acts that not more than just had the intent, but she did a physical act that also established something there. That's why I gave you the example of taking a pouch. Do you put the tefillin in? Okay, does that make it now that pouch has a level of sanctity and can't be used for something else? Or do we say, oh, well, here's a nice little bag. Today I'll use it for my tefillin, but you know what? I'm going to have to use it to carry my money tomorrow, so I'll use it for that. Okay? Well, or maybe there's a difference between considering it and an action that results in the fulfillment of what you do. Think of it that way.
Once you designate it and then utilize
act on it.
Then it
That's the point.
Transferred to
okay, so the Gemara asks, Lama li nitnu v'kerachto? Why does our text suggest that not only did she give this scarf, okay, but also wrapped it? Okay, okay. By the way, Sephardim frequently have a kerchief or something tied on the top of their Sefer Torah. Okay, if you've ever seen that, what do? When a person has their aliyah, they often take just the kerchief and cover over the ksav. Okay? All right, anyway, Rav Chisda, as the view of Rav Chisda, right? Okay, in this case. Namely, what is his view? Da Amar Rav Chisda. Ha Sudra da Azmana Lametzer Beit Filin. Okay, like the example we said of a pouch that has been designated for the use of tefillin, right? What happens? V'tsar beit tefillin, and they wrap the tefillin inside and put it in the, okay, right? Asur lemetzar ba pashte. Therefore, then it would be forbidden, okay, to put coins in it, okay? Azmana v'lo tsar bei. Okay, if they designated it but did not wrap the tefillin, putting it inside. Lo tsar bei velo azmana. Or if they wrap the tefillin, put it inside, but had not designated it for such, shari lemeitzar bei pashte. Then it's permitted to put in their coins. Ula Abai. Yes, Bob. No, no.
No,
It's,
sticking it
you know, it means you've wrapped it and you put it inside your bag.
They didn't have a bag, they had a cloth.
Okay? All right? Okay, but Abai, what about Abai's view? Okay? Dama hasmana miltahi, where Abai holds the view that simply, in quotes, designation is going to be sufficient, is going to be significant, right? If that's the case, Asmane, okay, if he designated it, Afalgav delot sarbe, even though they did not wrap, put the wrapped filling, I'll put it that way, okay, inside the bag, right? Okay, sarbe iasmana, or if they wrapped it, put it inside, but they had not designated it, and yes, that's the case. Elo as money, if they had not designated it, but lo, that's not the case. Okay, let's go on. Another attempt, okay, to indicate what the issue is. Okay, who we're trying to clarify still the same debate between Rava and Abai. Okay, Tashma, listen to the following. Now, Bob, the other day, you used the word mausoleum, okay, for a fancy burial structure. All right. I did some follow up on that. That could be clearly one of the words that if we wanted to translate this facility. Uh,
In a row of bricks, you can't really.
well, we'll
have a
get to
row
that.
of bricks.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. I wouldn't go that far yet. Nefesh says nefesh. Okay, this is clearly some sort of building. Okay, that could be built from bricks. It could be built from stones and things like that. Okay, and again, I'm reminding everybody that remember in Eretz Yisrael when they make a monument for someone. Okay, that it's partially built from bricks or stones, and then the slab, okay, is lying flat on top, which is made again of a stone. Okay. All right. So what happens? So nefesh, this theoretical kind of burial structure, mausoleum. Okay. Shekano l'sham. Okay. L'shem chai. Okay. It was built for the purpose of somebody who was still alive to be utilized when the time would come, right? Mutar bahana'ah, says the Gemara. It's permissible to use it for other individuals. Hosif bo dimus echad, but if they put in this, okay, and remember, we might call it mausoleum, crypt, whatever, but if they put a row of stones, okay, a row of stones to designate, and okay, within it, okay, that a body is there, okay, l'shem mate, for the purpose of a deceased, asur bahanan, then it's forbidden to be used. Hacha b'mayas kinan, what are we talking about? Right? Says the Gemara, drama bay mate. Okay? Because they brought the deceased into this facility. Ihachi, if that's the case, my area hosif. Why then do we say that when you add this row of stones here, that it now changes the status? Okay? The only thing we can initially think of is that you've actually done an act, okay, that could make it an official burial location, and that would be more like the view of okay, that you have both. Yeah.
What we're talking about is they built the thing while the guy was alive.
Yeah.
They then put the guy in it, and then they added more stones to the oak. Now, if the body happened to have been, for some reason, removed, the whole structure is still considered used for the mace. But remember, the first 20 rows were built before he died. They added the 21st row. So if they removed the 21st
completely convinced.
Body's
Okay?
born.
What?
Obviously, a body has to be born. If the body's there, it's still a no.
Okay, the point is, so why, this is the question, my area Hosif. What does it mean that, what have they added to make it usable, okay, and tame, or it's not? Is it the fact that they put the body in there? That is the part of the question. Ki lo Hosif nami. But the same thing would be even if they didn't, okay, even if they didn't put the body in. If we hold, like Abaye, that designation is sufficient, then you don't even need the body to say that's the point. Okay? Lo tzricha afal gav de penuya. No, we don't need to say that, even despite the fact that it may be empty. Again, that was okay. I don't see that. Amar Rav from Bar Papa. This is Rav from Bar Papa. Amar Rav Chisda. This is in the name of Rav Chisda. Im haya makiro cholso mutar. Okay, if it was such that he saw it, okay, and they removed certain things, he recognized it,
Move that extra.
okay, and they took out that row of stones, okay, and removed it. Shouldn't it then be considered usable? Okay, and no, that's not a. In other words, again, we're coming back to the issue of not only designating, but doing an actual act, okay, thing, situation. All right, so what happens? Tashma. Now we go on. Okay. Hachotsev kever la'aviv. One who's hewn a grave out of rock for his father. V'halach v'kivro b'kever acher. And he went and buried him in another burial location. Harei zeh lo yikaver bo olamit, says the Braita. Okay, that you cannot then use that original loch, that original location that you had dug for whatsoever. Okay, that so again, that seemed to imply, since you designated it for a particular person, okay, it cannot be used for anybody else. Okay, hatami shum kvod aviv, but he did it. Aren't we there talking that he did it for the honor of his father? Hachanami mistabra, and this seems logical. The Katani Sefer, because our Braita then teaches later on, right? Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, he says, Rabbi, Af hachotsev avanim la'aviv v'halach v'kivro b'makom acher. If one hewed rocks, stones, okay, for making some sort of burial item there for the father, okay, and he went and buried him in another location. Harei zeh lo yikaver bahen olamit. He can never use that item again, right? Right. No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Okay? I don't think so. Okay? Iyamart, if you're going to say Bishlema Mishum Kavod Aviv, if you're going to say that it was dug for the honor of his father, Shapir, that's well. Okay? Ella Iyamart Mishum Hazmana. But if you simply say, okay, it was designated as a place of burial, okay? Tovei la'ariga mi ikalamanda amar. What about the example of sewing a shroud, for example? Okay, weaving a shroud. Okay, that's the question that the Gemara is asking. Okay, if you're doing it in advance, okay, does that mean it's designated for a particular person? Tashma says the writer. Kavar, okay, right. Kavar chodesh mutar bahana'a. Okay, Kfar Chadash. I'm sorry. Okay, all right. So a new burial location, Kever Chadash, Mutar. Okay, it has not. In other words, it has not been designated for anyone. Okay, and therefore it is just simply dug. What happens? Hatol bo nefel, and if they put in that a fetus stillborn, right? Asur bahana, we say it is prohibited for usage. Further, hitil That's if they put it in, yes. Lo hitil, if they did not put anything in there, lo, no. Haya, okay, and what happens? The afal gav de lo hitil. What we might say that even if they did not put the stillborn there, la afuki midrabanan. This excludes the view of the rabbis, okay, particularly Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. Da amar ein lenefilin tfisat kever. Okay, that who he held that the interment of a stillborn does not designate that burial spot as a real quotes grave. Okay, kamash malan says the Gemara. No, that's not the case. Tashma, listen to the following example. Okay, says okay, motar hametim. Okay, now we're getting to a slightly new topic. Let's assume that they have collected money for a burial. Okay, what happens if there's excess money? Okay.
If they collect money for burials, because there's a difference in
Oh, well, we're
halacha.
going to get to it in a second. Okay, we're going to get to Michael. Hold on. Okay. All right. So mutar hametim, money that's been collected. Okay, for the burial of deceased individuals. Okay, and we're also going to get in a moment. What about if it was for a specific individual? Is there a difference between money that's generally collected for burials or money collected for a particular individual? Okay, so what happens? Says the Gemara, motar hametim lametim. Additional money that was collected for burials, plural in general, lametim. That money may be used for other burials, right? Motar hamet, okay? But if it was collected for a particular individual, okay, liyorshav, that surplus money will go to his heir. Okay? All right, so that would seem to argue, okay, to support Rabba's view as opposed to Abaya's view. Okay, Hachabamayiskin. What are we talking about then? Shagavu mechayim. That maybe the money, maybe that the money was collected while the person was still alive. Ha lo tani hachi. But if we don't teach that, what about the following? Okay. Right? Namely, okay. Ha lo tani hachi detnan. What about the fact that the following Mishnah says, motar hametim lametim? Okay, that the surplus money there for burials in general goes to the continued other burials. Motar hamet v'yorshov. Okay, that surplus for a particular designated deceased goes to his heirs. Vatani Allah, and we teach about this ketzad. What happens? How is this? Gavu lametim stam. Okay, if it was collected for burials generally, zehu motar hametim lametim. That surplus for burials goes to other burials. Okay, gavu lamet zeh. If it was collected for this particular deceased, okay, zehu motar hamet liyorshav. That surplus goes to his heirs. Ulatameh. We might argue now this is a challenge. Ema sefer. But I would say, look at the end of that Mishnah. Rabbi Meir Omer, he says, Lo yiga behen ad sheyavo Eliyahu. That they should not use that money, whether it's the heirs or anybody, until Eliyahu comes.
So he doesn't know.
Right? Well, wait. Don't jump ahead, please. Okay? Don't jump ahead. Rabbi Natan Omer, he says, Yaaseh dimus al kivro. He says one should use that money, Rabbi Natan, for some sort of monument on the gravesite. Oh, okay. Another possibility, ziluf lifnei mitato, or that they should sprinkle wine before their funeral bier. Okay, Ella Abai mitarates latame. But in this argument, okay, Abai is going to explain it according to his view, which we said was designation is significant. Okay? And what happens? The Rava mitarates latame. And Rava is also going to explain that same machloket, but according to his view, that designation is not significant. Right? Let's go on. Abai, and now the Gemara is going to show us that. Abai mitarates latame. Abai explains it to his reasoning. The kuli alma hasmana miltehi, that everyone agrees that designation is significant. Tanakama savar, the chazile tafus. The Tanakama is of the opinion, okay, that he sees it as what do I want to say? Uh, I don't want to use the word occupied, but there's a clarified, specified, things like that. The lo chazile lo tafus. Okay, and they don't see it as something that's not designated particular. Okay, so that's a question. The Rabbi Meir, now we get, and Rabbi Meir has a question about this. Misfekele, he has a doubt. E tafus, e lo tafus. Whether you're going to consider that, okay, designated, occupied, prepared, okay, or not. Hilkach lo yigabahen ad sheyavo Eliyahu. Therefore, he should not have contact with it to take that money, or anyone use that money until Eliyahu. Rabriut. V'Rabbi Natan, and according to Rabbi Natan, pshutale devadai tafus. Okay, that certainly he's of the opinion that it is tafus, that it is designated, occupied, clarified. Hilkach ya'aseh dimus al kivro, and therefore whatever money is left, you should use it for that particular person by, for example, making a monument on his grave. The Rava mitarates latame, and Rava explains it according to his reasoning. Lekuli alma hasmana lav miltahi. That designation is not significant. Tanakama savar, and the Tanakama is of the opinion ki bazu loy. Okay, that this could be if you collect the money, okay, and for a particular person, and don't use it for him, it's a sign of humiliation. Okay, I don't know. Okay, I didn't find that. All right. Okay, so what happens? All right. So I'm sorry. All right. So achule machul zilute gabe yorshin. Okay, that perhaps maybe he would be forgiving. Okay, on the money going to his heirs. Rabbi Meir misfekele, and Rabbi Meir, because he was questioning, doubtful, imachol, whether the person is going to forgive, ilomachol, or if he's not going to forgive, hilkach lo yigabahen v'chule. Therefore, that's why he argues that you can't use the money. Okay, what happens? The Rabbi Natan pshitale de lo machul. And Rabbi Natan holds that it's obvious for him that the person, if the money was collected for his burial, okay, hilkach ya'aseh dimus al kivro, that therefore they should use that extra money for a monument on his grave, or ziluf lifnei mitato, or for sprinkling wine before his funeral. Okay, tashma, says the Braita. Havu havim, hayu. Okay. Hayu aviva imo mizrakin bo kelim. Again, we're going to come back to the same argument, okay? But in a different example. A funeral is going on for a young man, okay? And the parents are tossing garments, okay, in this case, right? Okay, so what happens, says the Braita? Mitzvah al ha'acherim lahatzilan. It is a mitzvah for other people to collect those garments being tossed. Okay, what happens? Hatam mishum merirahu. They are throwing the garments not because they want to get rid of them, okay, but because of their bitter anguish. Ihachi, if that's the case, hainu de katani Allah, that's the reason that we've taught about it. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, b'med dvarim amurim, what are we talking about here? Shelo nag'u b'mitah, that those garments have not landed directly on the funeral bier. Aval nagu b'mitah asurin, but if they land on the funeral bier, it's forbidden for them to take those garments. Tirgama Ula, and Ula explained, b'mitah hanikberet imo. No, he says Ula, we're talking specifically, not the funeral bier in which they, let's say, go through the town and carry the body to the cemetery, but no, a different kind of okay, it could be a coffin, a planks, things like that, okay, that they would actually put in the ground with the body. Okay, so what happens? Why? Because we're going to say here that the reason we don't permit people to grab those is because it could be confused with the tachrichin, with the shrouds on the body. Okay? Tashma. Listen to the following bright. Okay? Now, here we go. Kis she'asau lahaniach bo tefillin. Okay, here we have our pouch in which they use to put in tefillin, right? Asur lahaniach bo ma'ot. It is forbidden to put in coins. Hiniach bo tefillin. If they've put tefillin actually in the pouch, right? What happens then? Okay, so in other words, going on, yaniach bo me'ot. Okay, this right is the. In other words, if it's a situation where they just happened to put tefillin in. In other words, it wasn't really designated as a tefillin bag. Okay, but it was just, I grabbed this bag and I'm throwing my tefillin in because I'm running late to shul in the morning or something. All right? Yaniach bo me'ot. That bag could be used for carrying money. Ema, asau v'hiniach bo tefillin, asur lahaniach bo me'ot. But I might say, since he did an act of putting the tefillin in that bag, it should be considered forbidden to put coins in there. Kidder Rav Chisda, like the view of Rav Chisda. Tashma, says the bright. Listen to this bright. Amar la'omar. He says to a craftsman, okay, Aseli tik, make me a chest, shel sefer, for a sefer Torah. O natik, shel tefillin, or make me some sort of a case for tefillin. Ad shelo nishtamesh bahen kodesh. Okay, until he hasn't used them, they still have a level of sanctity. Well,
if he has not
B'tashmish
used them
bahen
for
kodesh,
the tefillin,
mutar lehishtamesh bahen kol. Okay, then he's permitted to use them as for non-sacred purposes. Nishtamesh bahen kodesh. Once he has utilized them for sacred purposes, asur lehishtamesh bahen kol. Then it is prohibited for him to use it for secular purposes. Tanaihi, but this is actually a machloket Tanaim. Why? The Tanya, because we learn the following brighton. Okay? Sipan zahav oshetivla alehen o. Okay, let's assume that what he did is he painted the tefillin with gold paint. Oh, shetala alehen or he covered shal behema tmeya, or he covered the tefillin with the leather that belonged to a tamei animal. Psulot, those are invalid. Or behema tahora, if he covered it with the skin, the leather of a tahor animal, ksherot, they are valid. Okay? Afal pi shalo ibdan lishman. Even though it's possible that he did not do so with the direct intent to make them for the purpose and use them for the purpose of tefillin. Okay? Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Omer, he says, Af or behema tahora psulot ad she'ivdu lashman. According to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, okay, even if he used the skin, the leather of a kosher animal, tahor animal, if he did not do it with the express intent of using it for the sake of the mitzvah, okay, it is not valid.
So this is an argument for you that designation is meaningless.
It could be, okay? Amale Ravina Larava. And so, remember, we still underlying that same basic argument. So, Ravina challenges Rava and says, Mi ika duchta deramu be'met? Okay, is there any kind of a place where they put aside or they defer burial? Okay, va'argei. Okay,
While they're making the
beged
shrouds.
lamet, while they are weaving. I'm going to use the word here.
Right.
Okay, the shrouds. Okay, note number 14 is worth marking. Okay, in our scroll. All right, what happens? Okay, but all right. So Marley, and yes, he tells him, kigon shichvei de harpanya, like those who die in the location of harpanya. Excuse me. Okay, what happens? Darash Merima. He says, according to Merima, Hilchata Kavate Dabaye. He holds like Abaye, that Hazmana Miltahi. Okay? What happens? Rabbanan Amre, Hilchata Kavate Darabba. But other rabbis hold no. This is a machlokatanim, that it is like Rava, that it's not Hazmana Lav Miltahi. Right? Vehilchata Kavate Darabba. And the law is at the end that it is considered like Rava. Tanu Rabbanan, says a Braita. We're going to get to a brand new topic. We'll do this. We'll continue for about another 10 minutes approximately or so. Right? Okay. Tanu Rabbanan, says the Braita. Harugei Malchut, okay, Michsehen Lamelech. Okay, we're arguing now the following. If somebody is put to death because they're considered a rebel against the authorities, okay, to whom does that property money go? Remember, we just saw a discussion in the Gemara that said if it was collected in general, it could be used for general burial.
Coming back to Mishnah said that the heirs get.
Well, I'm going to get to that, Michael. I'm going to get to it. Okay?
Says nothing to collect.
Okay? On the other hand, we said that from the individual, the money would go to the heirs. Okay? So what happens? Okay? If they're put to death by the authorities, royal authorities, the money, the property is going to go to the king. Harogei Beit Din, but those who were put to death through the process of Jewish law, okay, in the courts, right? Nichsehem liyorshin. Their property is going to go to the heirs. Rabbi Yehuda says, Omer, Af harugei malchut nichsehem liyorshin. Even those, argues Rabbi Yehuda, that they're put to death by the authorities, okay, their property is going to go to the heirs. Amru le Rabbi Yehuda. And the sages said to Rabbi Yehuda, V'alok far ne'amar. Isn't it already said? Hinei bekerem navot. We have a pasuk here from Malachim, okay, that the vineyard of Navot, Asher Yarad Sham L'Rishto, okay, that the king went down to Navot's vineyard in order to inherit it, as opposed to in order to steal it, for example. All right? Amar lehem, he said to them, Ben Achi Aviv Haya. No, he was a relative of Navot. Okay? And so therefore he was acceptable for him to inherit it. Okay? Wait a second, says the Gemara. Vara'ui liyorsho haya, and therefore he was suitable to be an heir. V'halo harbe banim hayulam. But didn't Navot have many children, and therefore there should have been other heirs that perhaps even before the king should have been entitled to inherit. Okay? Amar lehen, he said, Oto viet banav harag. Not only did he kill Navot, but all his sons. Shenama imlo et demei Navot viet demei banav ra'iti. Okay? V'rabanan. And how do the rabbis understand this? Hahubanim haruiyim utzeit mimenu. Okay, what about future progeny? Bishlem elaman da'amar nichsein ke lamelech. That's understandable regarding those who say that the property goes to the king. Hainu dichtiv, that's why it says, Beirech Navot Elohim Lamelech. That namely, why? Because he blasphemed not only Hashem, but the king as well. Okay? And therefore it was the responsibility of the king to carry out a death penalty sentence for him. Okay? Ela, Laman Damar. Why about, what do we say about those, okay, that say the property goes to them, okay, lamali melech, why that? Latamech, and according to your reasoning, what happens, what do we have? Lamali, why then did the pasuk include the fact that he blasphemed Hashem? Ela la'afushe ritcha, okay, but rather it was done to increase the anger of the people. Achanami, here too, la'afushe ritcha. Here too it was done to increase the anger of the people. Bishlem laman da'amar, that's acceptable to the one who says, nichsein lamelech, that the property goes to the king. Hainu dichtiv, that's why it's written, Vayanas, okay, Yoav el ohel. Okay, you get another example. Vayechazek b'karnot hamizbeach. Now Yoav went to the, right, grab hold of the horns of the mizbeach. Uchtiv, and then it's written, Vayomer lo, eitzei, okay, ki po amot. I'd rather die here. Elelaman da amar nichseim liyorshin. Okay, but the one who says the property goes to the heirs, my nafkale mine. Okay, what difference does it make who kills him? Okay, in that case. Okay, whether it's the king or whether it's a base thing. Okay, what happens? All right. So the Gemara picks up. And that's why then the pasuk says, I'm sorry, my nafkale, right? So lechai sha'ah. Why the answer the Gemara is giving is, maybe he only was trying to prolong his life. Maybe that was the issue. Okay? Vayeshev Benayahu et melech davar la'amon. Okay, and Benayahu brought back what the king had said, namely, Ko diber Yoav v'cho anani. This is what Yoav said, and this is what was answered. Amarle, in other words, he was acting as the go-between before the Zil, Emalo Tarte. Go and tell him the two things. Lo ta'avid b'hai gavra. Don't do anything with this person. Ikat leitle kibul letute velitia. Okay? In other words, what Yoav is saying, okay, to the king, namely, that if you ultimately cause my death, all the curse that you have given to me, all that cursing is going to fall back on your own family, on the royal family of King David. The rest of the Gemara, as we're going to just do a little bit more, is going to give us examples of what the language of the curse was and how it applied to different kings in the Davidic dynasty. Okay? So what? Delitia, avu. It will fall on your father. V'ilo, and if not, shavke, deliku belituye delitaya avu. And if not, okay, then it won't, the curse won't fall on your father. Vayomer lo hamelech, and the king said, aseh ka'asher diber, upagabo v'kvarto. Okay, the king had him killed, okay, struck him, buried him, Amar Rav Yehuda, and then Rav Yehuda says, Amar Rav. In the name of Rav, what happens? Kol klalot Shekilel David, all the curses that David recited at Yoav regarding Yoav, Nitkaimu B'Zaro Shel David, were fulfilled in regarding the progeny of David. Okay, namely, citing pasuk by pasuk. Al Yikaret Mi Beit Yoav. Okay, don't end the death life of Yoav. Zav. Okay, that somebody would be a zav. Umitzora, lepers. Okay, umachazik b'pelach. Okay, that there too they would have to walk on a cane, right? V'nofel b'cherev, and he would die by the sword. V'chaser lechem, and they would go hungry, right? And we see all of these. Each argument. Zav, in terms of becoming a zav, merechavam. Why? Dichtiv v'hamelech rechavam hitametz la'alot b'merkava lanus Yerushalayim. Ktive, he went to flee, right? V'chol hamerkav asher yikav alav hazav yitma. So we have a connection between the king fleeing in a chariot and the person that's leprous in the chariot. That's the association going on. Mitzora, in terms of Tzarad. Who was it? Uziyahu. Why? Because it's written of Uziyahu, Gavali bo, Aj, Lahashchit, Vayima'al Bashem Elokav. All right? That he was overly arrogant, okay? And he then committed not blasphemy, but Me'ila against Hashem, right? V'yavo el Heichal. What did he do? He went to the Heichal Hashem, Laktir al Mizbeach, Hektoret, to carry out worship. Uktiv, and it was written, V'hatzarat zarcha b'mitzchal. And suddenly he had tzarat on his head. Machazik b'pelech, okay, that he would have to use a cane. What happens? Who does that apply to? Asa, me'asa. Dichtiv, what? Rak la'et ziknato chala et reglo. At the end of his elderly years, he had a disease to his feet. He had gout, is what, okay? Amar Rav Yehuda, says Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, in the name of Rav, She'achazo Pudgara, and that's what Pudgara is gout. Okay? Amar Le Mar Zutra, says Mar Zutra, Berei the Rav Nachman, right? Hechidami, how is that possible? Amar Le Kemachat Babasar Hachal. It's like a needle sticking into living skin, okay? Living flesh, okay? Mina yada, how did he know? I might say, Michush Havachiyash. He actually had felt it. In other words, he had the illness himself. The Bayatema, if you want, I might say, okay, Marbe Hava Gamele, Mirabe. He learned it from his Rebbe. Okay, the Bayatema, and if you want, I would say, okay, Sod Hashem L'Re'av Ubrito L'Hodiyam. Okay, that it was a sod, it was a secret that was passed on. Okay, no fail b'cherev. What about one who would die by the sword? Miyashayahu. Okay, Yoshiyahu, Josiah. Dichtiv, right? V'yoru hamorim, that the archers shot their arrows, Lamelech, towards King Yoshiyahu. Right? V'amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. He says, Sha'asu kol gufo kivara, and they made his body like a sieve. Okay? V'chaser lechem, and one was going without food, the lack of food. Okay, mi yechonia. Excuse me. Fry, because it's written. Va'aruchato aruchat tamid netnalo. In other words, they only limited his food intake when he was a prisoner. Okay, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Hainu da Amre Inshe. This is why people say as we finish up. Okay, what do they say? Okay, name Tehe Luta Velo Tehe La'ata. Okay, better to be cursed, okay, than to curse others. And we'll stop right there.
It's an English word, I don't know. It's casings for the stone. What is that? The
Button.
which part?
Button.
Oh, is that? I thought it meant just the straps.
No, I would say it's the button.
Casings are. Thank you. You must have been born in America. You know these words. You know words we never heard of casings.
Oh, I'm sure. They may have used it for something else. For example, the same term
It's used to.
as when you make kishka,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
okay, or you make bologna, not bologna, salami.
Where they put in the skin is called the casing.
Yeah.
But again, I didn't know. I knew that, but I didn't know if that meant the straps. So you don't think it means the straps? You think it
No,
means?
I think it means the
Yeah.
button.
Okay. Thank you. I spent hours going through this Gemara yesterday.
Took me an hour and 3/4.
Well, 'cause I was more familiar with the